Allen Stiles on Sactown Sports.
Thanks again to the roundtable, Chris Watkins, Frankie Cardicelli, and Brendan Nunez. We are joined now, as promised, by Michael Scotto, senior NBA insider for Hoops Hype. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, what's going on? Pleasure to join you.
Well, I just got to say, Michael, and I promise I'm not kissing up here, but you've been grinding, man. We've been, out here in Sacramento. We're just looking for hope, Michael, after this season. And you've been, the sit-downs with Jake LaRavia we're going to get into and everything that you've been kind of working on right now. You're working hard, man. I know people like you, insiders, it's almost, I don't know what when the quiet time is, maybe right after the trade deadline. And I guess you could argue even kind of now because teams can't make moves until the season officially ends. So I just wanted to say you're doing your thing right now, Michael.
I appreciate it. I'll say this, like after the trade deadline, first thing I think of, because I'm maniacal in that sense, is like, okay, where the buyout guys going?
Right.
It's always what's next. But even now, I know we got a couple of weeks to the draft. Honestly, it's just like a lot of calls and texts all day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know, 85 in Brooklyn right now. I try to go out, go for a walk, multitask. And I got my, earphones in. I'm not an earbuds guy. I'm against that. So it's a little insider info there. But no, for sure, I appreciate it. I mean, Jake LaRavia was a pleasure to talk to. Really insightful guy, which always helps. So, yeah, I mean, obviously for Sacramento, a lot going on, too, with their high-powered scoring trio and Domantas Sabonis, Zach LaVine, and DeMar DeRozan this summer.
Yeah, let's just keep it going with Jake LaRavia talking to Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype. So as I'm reading the Q&A that you had, my takeaway was essentially I really like Doug Christie, and I'd love to stay in Sacramento, but at the end of the day, money talks in Sacramento because of the deal that they made and what the Grizzlies had on paper with Jake. Hey, we got to do what we got to do. I'd love to be in Sacramento, but if somebody is interested in what I can do, I'm not taking a hometown discount for Doug Christie and the Kings.
I would say when it comes to Jake, look, first of all, from all my conversations with people, Doug Christie enjoys the type of player that Jake LaRavia is. And the two of them have a very good relationship. I think if it's similar money, I would give the edge to Sacramento because of that relationship. He knows what role it would be and a consistent one at that, which if you look at Jake LaRavia's career, the first 2 years when he was in Memphis, sure, he had to deal with injuries at times, but this is a guy that was a former first-round pick. He was waiting for his opportunity. He finally got it really at the start of the third year. He shot the ball better than he ever had, which he attributed, of course, to consistent minutes. But he does a little bit of everything as an all-around type of player. He can make plays. He rebounds. He defends. You can kind of plug him anywhere in that sense in your rotation. And so that's why there are going to be teams after him, especially with the fact that in a rare case for 23-year-olds in the league, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent because the Grizzlies declined his team option before he was traded to Sacramento. And what I really thought was surprising was Grizzlies GM Zach Kleiman was asked, if there was a move he could take back during the calendar year, what would it be? And he specifically mentioned that, which as somebody that's covered the league, you rarely see, first of all, an exec admit anything. And number two, to be as detailed as that, I thought was interesting, and obviously for Jake as well.
What would be your guess as far as Jake, the Kings, based on his current market and what you're hearing? Do you think that Jake will be back in Sacramento, or do you think there are enough other suitors willing to outbid Sacramento?
Put me on the spot. I would say for Jake LaRavia, kind of like I touched on, if the money's similar, I think he stays. I think it's advantageous for Jake to try to do something short term so he can get back into the market earlier again, because right now the Kings can only offer him a certain amount of money due to the restrictions when they obtained him because Sacramento declines his option. They can only go a certain percentage over that, given their books. Forgive me, I am not a salary cap wizard, but I'd have to look it up.
Oh,
It's
trust me, we talk about it ad nauseum. Trust me, you're good.
It might be like $6 million.
Yes, you're close. So, 5 point something.
Okay, sure. So yeah, it's somewhere in that range. So like, if a team offers, let's say 7 or 8, then I think you got a decision to make, and of course on the roll. Mm-hmm. Big thing for Jake, I would say, consistency of a role. Mm-hmm. I would say that's going to be important. Obviously, he touched on wanting to be on either a young and up-and-coming team or a team that's, looking to potentially compete for a championship. I think when you look at Sacramento, the window they fit in that conversation would be more towards the young and up-and-coming side, because he did touch on Keegan Murray, Keon Ellis, a lot of other guys on that team who play defense similar to him. Try to kind of balance out that scoring trio that you guys have.
Yeah, talking to Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype, reported on another need that the Kings have, point guard, and Tyus Jones. Tell us a little bit about what you're hearing as far as Tyus Jones is concerned, and maybe any other point guards floating around the market as far as the Kings are concerned.
Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes to Tyus Jones, there's a lot of teams that have some form of the non-taxpayer mid-level exception that are looking at him. Not sure if he's going to get all of that or a portion of it, but certainly teams are looking in that sense. Once they traded De'Aaron Fox, their mindset looking ahead long-term is, they need a point guard that can continue to spread the floor for them, which Tyus Jones could do, and also take care of the ball. He's one of the best assist-to-turnover ratio players in the league over the past, 5 years or so. And so that's what's intriguing there. I do think he's going to have other interests elsewhere. And yes, Sacramento was looking at other guards. I'm just not at liberty to say yet. But think of anybody. My hint to you guys would be anybody that's in that non-taxpayer mid-level exception or below. Somewhere on their radar, there's just a pecking order. There seems to be sincere interest in Tyus Jones, but he will have other suitors as well.
Talking to Michael Scotto, and thanks for the hint there, Michael. Kyle is already in the back working on all those players that kind of fit that description. You also put out a piece kind of breaking down Sacramento exploring the possibility of trading one of those high-power scorers in DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis, or Zach LaVine. I read that, Michael, and I quote tweeted saying, hey, this is about DeMar DeRozan, right? As far as I understood it. But I want to ask you, since we have you on the horn, is there anybody else that it could be, right? I think that out here, we see how much Domantas Sabonis means to the team, and him being, an all-NBA player when he's at his best. We see Zach LaVine's contract and say, I don't know that anybody else is going to have an appetite for that. And that kind of leaves us with DeMar DeRozan, only been on the team for a year, and we know, he's 36, 37 years old, and he wants to compete at a high level. But am I jumping the gun assuming it's DeMar DeRozan? Is there a world where it's a different combination of maybe DeMar and Zach LaVine are still on the team and it's Sabonis out? Or is it something else that can happen outside of, it's going to be DeMar DeRozan?
Well, I mean, first off, as I kind of framed it, it's rival executives. So these are people that are other teams looking at Sacramento as far as like one of those big three, exploring the possibility of trading one, whether it's this offseason or before the trade deadline. Now, Domantas Sabonis has been the most consistent of the trio for sure, been without a doubt their best player. The guy's been a monster, about 19 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists a game during his Kings tenure. The big question there that rival executives have is Domantas Sabonis, would he eventually request a trade if Sacramento continues to sputter and they remain in this kind of play-in territory team? He's in the prime of his career, so that's something rival executives are monitoring. When it comes to Zach LaVine, he had a bounce-back year. He was able to stay healthy, had the best shooting performance of his career, over 51% from the field and about 45% from three-point range. everybody knows Zach LaVine can score the basketball. That's never been a question. The question, and you kind of touched on, well, if his contract, would people trade for it? Well, I mean, Sacramento traded for it. So I don't think, I think that, yeah, it's definitely, I don't want to say inhibiting, but it's a boulder that they would have to, maybe boulder's not the right word. It's something they would have to navigate for sure. There's no question there. I think you're right on that. I think other teams had a chance to get him though last year, who could have used a scoring punch and they did not. So I could see your thought process on him staying in Sac. With DeMar DeRozan being towards respectfully the latter stages of his career, even though he's still a very productive player, his $25 million salary-ish this year and only being guaranteed $10 million for the following season would make him, of the three, the more feasible guy to trade, as you kind of surmised a little bit. I think the question there is going to be which teams that are playoff contenders, that are aspiring to be a championship contender, maybe could view him as a missing piece and offer some financial flexibility where his contract at $25 million, I mean, that's in today's NBA, that's not bad at all for a high-level starting player. And also, looking ahead towards the next season, only 10 is guaranteed. So you've got some financial flexibility if you either then need to flip that contract or if you want to cut bait and save money elsewhere, you can theoretically do that. So I think your surmising of my reporting is relatively on point.
Mm-hmm. Last one for you, talking to Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype. And Michael, you've been on this situation for a minute, so I had to get your thoughts. Today, our trade candidate of the day, we do one basically every day for the Kings, was Cam Johnson. And Cam Johnson is very, very confusing. 29 years old. He's never played more than, 66 games. Personally, Michael, I feel like the Nets waited too long. What are you hearing about Cam Johnson and the market right now? They wanted, 2 firsts for him? I don't think they're getting that now. What are you hearing about Cam Johnson and the plan for the Brooklyn Nets with him?
I could tell you last year, I mean, when you say what did they want for Cam Johnson, I knew it was more than a first-round pick. Now, whether that was going to be multiple firsts, whether that was going to be a first and a good young player such as Devin Carter, for example.
Right.
The equation was relatively around that. Obviously, Sacramento didn't want to part with Devin Carter. But I would say for Brooklyn, this is what's confounding a little bit and confusing about Cam Johnson. On one hand, you would look on paper at that team and say, well, given where they are heading, they're in more of a rebuild stage, you can move off a guy like that, excellent three-point shooter. He fit in really well with Jordi Fernandez. I can tell you that the Nets love him as a locker room guy, as a leader, love him as a shooter, and their belief is he can fit in with any iteration of that team. Meaning, if they were able to go out and get better players this summer, he'd be a part of that core. If they needed to wait another year, they still think that he could be part of the core because he's got a manageable contract in their eyes when it looks towards the future. If you look at him on the books, this year he's owed $21 million. The following year, $23 million. Certainly not going to kill the books in any stretch of the imagination. When you ask me if they waited too long, I mean, it's hard to say because if the Nets, if things stay the way they are and they don't get Giannis, right, you're probably looking at another rebuilding season this year. Then you have to make a decision almost the year after that,
right,
where he'd be in the final year of his deal. And then at that point, you're either going to try to extend him or keep him long-term, or you're going to move him then. They still have a little bit of time. I think 2 first-round picks for him is going to be tough. If it was going to happen, I think it would have been either at the deadline or to this point. It may be a little bit less than that, but they've never felt at all a sense of urgency to trade him just to trade him. I could tell you that for sure.
Michael Scotto, this was outstanding. Thank you for taking the time. I know it's a little later out there in Brooklyn, so we really appreciate it. You know, I made it out to Brooklyn one time, and I had this whole thing, and this is before the chopped cheese popped off, because now everybody's doing chopped cheese everywhere. I went out to Brooklyn. I told myself I'm getting the chopped cheese because I went to school in Philly, so I wanted to compare it to the cheese steak, and I didn't do it, Michael. I got to get out there, man. I got to do it.
I don't know. As a Brooklynite, I don't know if I would say we're known for the chopped cheese. I got to be honest. And I will say about Philly, you can put me on the record. Angelo's is my spot.
Okay.
That is my spot. I know it's not necessarily the quote-unquote tourist of the cheesesteaks in Philly spot, but Angelo's is where it's at. Tested and proven. From a direct source, yours truly, Mike Scotto.
There you go. I'm an Ish Kabibbles guy myself, but I've heard of Angelo's. I can get down there. Michael Scotto, insider, senior NBA insider for Hoops Hype. Be sure to follow him on social media and check out all his work on Hoops Hype. Michael, let's do it again soon. We'll talk to you.
When we do it the next time, let me know. Let me know about Angelo's and your thoughts.
All right. Thank you. That was Michael Scotto. When we return, a Hall of Fame quarterback finally makes his decision. We'll tell you who it is and where he's going. Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports.
Attention, if you owe